In today's video, I'm doing some whole versus pre-cut pellet smoked beef short ribs on a pellet grill. Hey, this is Ricer from Dead Broke Barbecue, Wisconsin, and welcome back to the channel. But if you're new here, we try to help you enhance and amplify your backyard barbecue fun. Now, this was a good idea by my good friend Joe from Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue. And him and I talked about pre-slicing up some beef ribs and get some extra bark on the bite. So grab a little Cabernet in your spritzer bottle, Joe. We're gonna amplify some backyard barbecue fun. This video came up from a conversation I was having with Joe from Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue. Now, obviously a lot of you already know Joe, but if you haven't, at the end of this video, I'll put his subscribe button on it also. Joe and I were talking about how we both enjoyed doing some smoked beef ribs, and the idea of pre-slicing one rack was discussed. So we thought, why not do a comparison video, have one full rack, and then slice one up. But before I do that, I need to trim off some of this fat on top. And because we've got short ribs, there's always a big pocket of fat right through the center of them. Now you can see right here, you're not gonna wanna trim this all out because you'll be right down basically to the bone. We'll just start trimming off some of this big, heavy, thick fat. Get a good knife, and it's pretty simple to trim off. You don't have to get too aggressive, especially when you start getting in that pocket of fat. But we're starting to expose a little bit of this meat. Certainly always try to get the silver skin off best I can. This is where having a good sharp knife really comes into play. And this cheap old fillet knife, it ain't that bad. And some of you might be asking, why does he got a wine bottle out? Because we're gonna go ahead and spritz these ribs up as they're cooking with some good old Cabernet Sauvignon. For all of you that have been following me for a while, you know that I like to have a little Cabernet with my short ribs. And my promo code is still active for WTSO, so check the links below and head over and get your own bottle of Cabernet. Just take just a little bit more of this pocket of fat out, just a hair. It doesn't hurt to have some of that on. But you can see right here, if I trim this out, it's all the way down to the bone. Now there's a couple things that Joe and I are gonna be doing different in this cook. Number one, he's probably in 75 degrees and I'm in 42 degrees today here up in Wisconsin. And number two, I'm using my Pellet Pro 1190 and he's using his Yoder offset. But it really is easy to trim up meat when it's this cold. Now I'm gonna start trimming up this other rack, but I'll bring you back when it's time to go ahead and split up these bones. I got these short ribs trimmed up pretty good. You can sit and trim on these forever if you really want to, but this works. Now I'm leaving this membrane on because I want to keep this meat to this bone. If I go ahead and peel that membrane, the meat's just gonna fall off into the cooker. But find where your bones are, kind of feel around, and you can also see where they are. Just go ahead and we're gonna start cutting off. Try to hit it in the center so we got a little bit hanging off on both sides. Just like this. And finally, now this last one's gonna be a big one. Now we got our 4 individual bones. And again, you can see where this pocket is. Well, there's not much we can do about it, but we're still gonna cook it. But I'm telling you, this one right here, that's gonna be a solid piece of deliciousness. Now for the seasoning today, I'm just using some Meat Church Holy Gospel. We'll start out with this full rack, get this covered up a little bit. Don't forget the sides. And you guys always know I got OCD, so I gotta throw some on the back. It doesn't do anything, but I still put a little bit on that backside. And we'll just touch it up just a little bit on this top. Now the individual ones, we're gonna coat those good too. Because the whole purpose is to see how much bark we can develop on these individual bones. But at this big bone, there's always some really good marbling on that. And that is what makes the whole rack of short ribs worth it. Everybody's fighting for this one all the time. Can I have a piece of that, Daddy? And I'm just gonna go ahead and tappity tap. Now while these short ribs set and sweat, let's get the Pellet Pro 1190 fired up. Now because Joe is using an offset, I'm gonna use my Heavy D insert. Now check the description below because this actually can go in a lot of different pellet grills. And what it is you can see, there's a chunk of wood in here. So all you gotta do is go ahead and put that chunk of wood in there. Then instead of using your standard heat deflector, you use the Heavy D. And that goes right over your fire pot. And then you can see right here that this is mesh, and that heat will make these little chunks of wood smolder. And that'll just give you a little bit more smoky flavor. I'm gonna go ahead and put in my drip pan. And that just simply fits in right like that. Now I'm gonna get my grates in. Go, they're in. Now I'm gonna turn the Pellet Pro on and I'm just gonna turn it to low smoke. And once it starts burning clean, we're gonna close up the lid and we're just gonna let it preheat for about 10 to 15 minutes. Then we'll go ahead and get these bones under some smoke. The Pellet Pro 1190 is all heated up. It took about 10 minutes to get to that 165 degrees. That's what the low smoke setting is at. I am using this wire grate for these individual bones. We'll just get these put on, give them about 1 inch apart so we get some good smoke on them. Just a little bit. And we'll open up the hood and we're gonna set them right in here. And the whole rack, we'll go ahead and put it right here. Now obviously on a pellet grill, it's always gonna be a little hotter on the right-hand side, but on the Pellet Pro 1190, I only have about 8 to 10 degrees from right to left difference through this cooker. This thing is solid and it holds pretty good. Now I'm gonna set a timer for 30 minutes and let this Pellet Pro just add a little bit more smoke. My 30-minute timer went off. Let's go ahead and turn up the Pellet Pro. Just gonna hit the plus sign and get it up to 250 degrees. And then we'll open up the lid and check them out. Well, we're starting to get a little bit of color on them. Now all I'm gonna do is actually just rotate this one 180, and same with this wired rack. Flip this one around right now, and then close up the lid and set a timer for 1 hour. Then we'll come back and check and see if these need a little bit of a spritz. Our 1 hour timer went off. Let's go ahead and rotate these beef short ribs. Now we're getting some good smoke off the heavy D. All right, so what we're gonna do, just grab our rack for right now, get this set like that, and then we're gonna get these right here for now. And I'm gonna give these beef short ribs a little bit of a spritz. And what I'm using for a spritz is 50-50 Cabernet Sauvignon and apple cider vinegar. All right, and we'll just go ahead and get a little bit of a spritz on this side. And we'll get these spritzed up a little bit too. Just a little. And then I'm also gonna go ahead and hook up my signals. And I'm gonna use 2 meat probes. Turn the power on, plug this one in first. And we're gonna run this one right here. Kind of find a thicker part. Don't wanna get into the bone. Then we'll plug this one in and we'll stick this one in right about there. And now I'm gonna set a timer for half an hour and I'll just keep on coming out here to check and see if they need a spritz, and I'll rotate them 180 degrees from side to side. But once these develop a really decent bark, and that's gonna be right around 175 to 180 degrees, I'll bring you back out and we'll wrap these up with some butcher paper. Now I'm pretty sure Joe is using butcher paper, so I might as well use some butcher paper too. I'm a little over 5 hours on this cook and we're reading at 175 degrees on the dot. Let's pull off these beef ribs and get them wrapped up in some butcher paper. Well, they certainly are building a good bark on them, but let's get these probes out. Now my full rack, it's looking pretty sweet though. We're gonna wanna go ahead and get some moisture on there just with our spritz. Get a little bit on, but I'm dealing with a lot of wind, so I gotta put things on it before I can start wrapping. Get it right about here. Get this over, get it tight, and we'll just start folding it. Smoothed out a little bit. Fold it over. I'm gonna fold it over one more time. Get it nice and tight again. That'll work. Just fold this in half on the bottom. Get this one back in. Now our pre-sliced bones, they're looking pretty crazy too. Actually, this one is awesome looking. Same thing, get a little bit of spritz on there, but I've never wrapped anything this small yet, so we'll see how this goes. And I thought 1 sheet's enough, because we got lots of turning to do here. I never would have been hired at Sears. I'm not very good at wrapping presents. But I'm gonna say we're gonna do it similar to this on the rest of them. I'm almost out of spritz. I'd take 1 ounce of beef, please. I measured that spritz perfectly today. We'll get this last one in here and then we'll put in our probes. Now you're gonna wanna feel around where your bones are and find the bigger spot. I think we're gonna go right here with the probe, and we'll get this last one and this bigger one right here. We'll close up the lid and I'm gonna set a timer for 30 minutes. That way I can come out and check my temperatures, and I wanna pull these right around 205 degrees, and then we'll let them rest for about an hour in the Cambro. Man, is it cold out. I need a shot of Cabernet. I'm pretty jealous of Joe right now because I'm sure that he's wearing flip-flops and shorts down in Texas. Ain't fair. Thank God I got this good Cabernet to keep myself warm. I'm 7.5 hours into this cook. Let's go ahead and check out some temps on these beef ribs, but I'm feeling that we're pretty well done. All right, so I know that the big rack is right around that 205, and the smaller one, that individual piece, that's been kind of tricky, but the other 3 pre-sliced, those were all right around 200 degrees about a half an hour ago, so I'm pretty sure that they're all done also. So let's get into Pellet Pro and start checking some temps. All right, we'll pull this one out, get in here, see where we're at. Oh yeah, 206, 207. This one we can pull out. All right, let's check this one here. Oh yeah, 207, 206, yeah. So this bigger one, try this one. Yeah, this one's still a little low. Feels tender though, but we'll leave that one on. I'm gonna take the whole rack and the 3 pre-sliced and throw them in this foil pan, and then we'll put it back into the Cambro. Okay, we'll just start getting these in. And just go like this. So now I'm just gonna get them in the Cambro, but first I'll close up the lid because we got about another 15-20 minutes on that last bone. Cambros are pretty easy, just pop them open. And then I'm just gonna slide her in here and we'll close her up. And I'll just take it and set it off this side for now. I'm just gonna let them rest for about an hour, hour and a half, and then we'll come back out here and we'll slice into them and give them a taste test. I'm really excited to see how much bark we developed on those pre-slices. That was the whole reason to do this video. Now I'm not gonna bring it back when I actually pull that larger pre-sliced bone, but I'll take it off and just throw that in the Cambro also. This whole rack of beef ribs and these pre-sliced have rested for an hour and a half. It's time to dig into them, but it's 32 degrees out, so I have to make this quick or they're gonna be cold. Just get these off. And the first one we're gonna unwrap is the whole rack of beef ribs. Get that one out. And let's get one of these pre-sliced out. Oh yeah, look at that bark. Here's a little one. That one looks pretty good. And this last bigger piece, this one had to run for about an extra 20 minutes before it hit 205 degrees. We don't have a lot of time, so I better just start slicing into them. We'll get into this big bone first. Well, it certainly has a good smoke ring going on it, but that bark, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That smoke ring is almost all the way through. Wow, that is really good. Nice little crispy bark on the outside. The whole bite is that way. Now let's go ahead and cut into this big full rack. And again, look at that. Really good smoke ring on there. And I'm gonna say that Heavy D, it added some smoke flavor to it for sure. So check out the links below and head over to Smoke Daddy if you wanna add a little bit more smoke flavor to your pellet grill. Now the Meat Church Holy Gospel gave it a ton of flavor. I'm really happy with that. And I honestly can taste a little bit of that Cabernet from that Spritz too. But I'll bring this over just to take a better look at this. But now that is some serious bark. And I'm really happy that Joe and I talked about doing this together. And I can't wait till I see his video. And if you're not subscribed to Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue, check the card above because you're gonna thank me for it because Joe is a great Texas barbecue cook. Oh, I gotta hurry. I really have to hurry. There is so much smoke in this. Yeah, they're really good. And it's just so crazy solid. But we're gonna have to get these inside before they get cold.
If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become a subscriber. Turn on that notification bell because you don't want to miss my next video. I know you don't. Now I'm guessing that Joe, being that he's from Texas, he's going big or going home, but I can't get a hold of any dino bones around my area. But I'm certainly gonna tell you that pre-cutting those short ribs was mighty fine and tasty. The bark on them were incredible, and I'm gonna do it again, but I have to probably pre-order some big old chuck plate ribs so I can get more meat on them. You could see that they started to shrink up a little bit, but man, oh mighty, oh God, they were incredible. But I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
And what I have inside here is 50% Cabernet Sauvignon, and I hate how ThermalWorks kinks these things. It's just the dumbest. They should roll them and then you don't have all these kinks.